Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we are going to do another special Trump exhibit on The Roads Not Taken. I believe this is the third one. So Exhibit C. We will be going through the news related to Trump and all of his various legal entanglements. There is a lot of news to go through, as is typically the case. We will start in New York, which definitely has the biggest news, and the big news is the ruling. If you missed it, the judge ruled that basically, they're liable. They are liable for the fraud. So the revoking of the certificates, that has been called the corporate death penalty. What he is looking at when it comes to canceling the ability to do business in New York, it's huge. It is huge. And this would cancel the certificates that allow the Trump organization and all of its trusts, its LLCs, everything. It stops them from being able to function in the state. It's huge. When it comes to the houses owned by the companies and whether they would also be subject to the ruling, the judge said, I'm not prepared to make a ruling at this time on that topic. So at the moment, it has been left on the table. But the judge has extended the deadline to suggest receivers to 30 days. It was initially 10. Now, all of this news means that the trial, which is slated to start October 2nd, is likely to be much shorter than originally anticipated because the key element was decided in the summary judgment. So I think the original plan was for it to start on October 2nd, and it might last until just before Christmas. It will probably wrap up much before then. Now, in a very bizarre turn of events, Trump world is super upset that the judge is using the assessor's valuation of Mar-a-Lago and seems to be casting a false narrative surrounding it. Trump world is kind of putting out a bunch of information that doesn't really add up. It doesn't really make sense. The judge did not make a valuation of the club. That was done by the tax people down in Florida, from my understanding. It might do Trump world some good to remember what that valuation was in 2020, I think. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the Trump team appealed that evaluation, saying that it was too high. That might be something that they want to remember as they start making statements about it. The crux of it is that they feel it was valued way too low, which, with everything going on in this ruling and what is happening in the New York case, the fact that they're even remotely concerned about the valuation leads me to believe that they may not actually understand the situation. This is a $250 million suit. They might be focused on the wrong things here. Moving on to Georgia, Trump has reportedly been asking his team to come up with proposals for different ways to suppress the now infamous phone call in which he was asking about finding some extra votes or whatever. This claim has, of course, been denied by his legal team. This is the phone call that Trump described as perfect, I believe. That move, trying to get that suppressed, I understand the humor in it, given the fact that Trump repeatedly said that it was perfect and there was nothing wrong with it and all of that stuff. At the same time, from a legal perspective, I would expect them to start doing a whole bunch of things that make their client not look great and maybe undercut some of the things that he has said in public because they're trying to defend him. That phone call, yeah, it would be great for the Trump team if it was somehow suppressed and not admissible. How they are going to attempt to manage that, that's anybody's guess. Georgia jurors will have their identities kept secret. Some media organizations are petitioning to be able to report demographic information about the jury, but I haven't seen any outlets actually fighting this aspect of it because I think they understand the situation. The DA in Georgia says threats against her are a waste of time, and she went on to say, in this job and as a woman in general standing in this position, to threaten me is a waste of time. The interesting thing about this is that when you just see that quote, you would think that it would be directed at Trump's base and people who might be calling her and stuff like that. It certainly appears to be directed at House Republicans who have expressed interest in looking into how she does things. I don't think that that's going to go over very well. In some kind of outside news that is probably going to come up later, Cassidy Hutchinson, her book says the wife of Mark Meadows complained about the cost of dry cleaning, and the dry cleaning was to remove the smell of smoke from his clothes. It's reported that Meadows would burn documents in the fireplace in his office. That's, we'll probably see that material again. Now, on to the documents case. Trump's Presidential Records Act defense is going up in smoke faster than anything in any fireplace. Experts are beginning to talk about how using the act would require disregarding major portions of it and allowing Trump to just pick and choose what parts of the act would apply at any given time. That's not how things work. That's not something that would be feasible in a courtroom. And it has to be remembered, or it should be at least acknowledged, that under the act, reports that were generated by, I don't know, hypothetically speaking, an intelligence agency, those would be considered agency records, not personal records, which would really cause issue for the former president. It doesn't help. Okay, moving on to the D.C. election case, the interference case. The judge has denied Trump's recusal request. Who didn't see that coming? If you missed it, Trump basically said that the judge needed to recuse herself because something about her parents being communists or something. There was a whole bunch of stuff. And it was thin. It was thin. Nothing that I saw would indicate an inability to preside over the trial. Apparently, the judge feels the same way. Trump's team is fighting the proposed gag order. They filed arguing that the prosecution can't show how Trump's statements would provoke lawlessness. Sorry, I zoned out there. I was thinking about this documentary I watched about this thing that happened on January 6th. Anyway, that was one of the arguments. The other was that the real reason for this proposed rule was because Biden wants to silence Trump. And another one was that being talked about by Trump really wasn't a bad thing because it helps with their book sales. I'm paraphrasing. To me, the arguments were not great. They weren't very convincing to me. I am not sure how the judge will look at them. Now, some wider-ranging elements to Trump world and everything that's going on right now is that there might be a probe occurring looking into Trump's political operations and the payment of lawyers for potential witnesses or co-defendants, and how that might create issues. I would imagine that is something we will see come up again probably pretty quickly. In Michigan, some of the fake electors are trying to get their cases dropped after the Attorney General said that the defendants were brainwashed and that, quote, they legit believe that when talking about like the election being taken and all of that stuff. Now, the AG said this outside of a courtroom setting and all of that. However, it's the Attorney General. And the Attorney General, in these comments, kind of saying that the intent may not be there. We're going to see that again, guaranteed. That's going to come up probably a lot, actually. This is something that's probably going to help the defendant's case. How much it's going to help them is yet to be seen. But that comment, when you are looking at a lot of crimes, the intent matters. And if they were brainwashed, if they did legit believe that, it puts them in a situation where they may not be criminally responsible under the law. Now, whether or not the Attorney General's statements actually amount to that being a professional opinion or a legal opinion or something like that that would matter in a courtroom, that's yet to be seen. But it coming out and it being said, you're probably going to see most, if not all, of the defendants try to use this statement in some way. In another element to what's going on, and especially when it comes to Trump talking about potential witnesses, Trump appears to have suggested General Milley may have committed a capital offense and said some things that will probably come back to cause problems for the former president. I've been asked a couple of times since it happened why I didn't comment on it, because it's normally something that I would talk about, especially the way Trump phrased it. There's two reasons. One, at this point, we can expect the former president to become more and more and more erratic. His statements are going to get even wilder than that one. And so this is just kind of the beginning of it. I don't necessarily see this as huge. Aside from that, I don't think Milley needs me to defend him. General Milley has been around quite some time, and it is worth remembering that the former president already went up against a bunch of guys with long tabs back in January of some year. I can't remember. he didn't win. We see how that has turned out for him. I don't believe that Trump initiating any kind of PR battle with General Milley is a good idea. I understand that for a lot of people on the right, Milley has become a person they feel that they can, go after and talk bad about, and it'll get them good social media engagement, get them those clicks that they think eventually convert to votes, despite all evidence to the contrary. I don't believe that that's necessarily true. I think that when they go after Milley, people like Milley, I think it hurts them far more than they understand. And again, Milley's got one of those long tabs on his shoulder. I don't think that the general needs, help from people on YouTube. I think he's got this. So that is going through the recent developments in Trump world and all of the entanglements the former president has found himself in. There is probably going to be a whole lot of news in the next week or two when it comes to Trump's legal proceedings. And the larger news we'll talk about over on the main channel, and then the procedural stuff we'll get to here. The New York case, it has the potential to be absolutely devastating to the former president and those around him. Based on what they seem to be tweeting about and what they appear to be most concerned with, I don't think they understand that yet. I do not think that they understand the gravity of the situation that came through with that summary judgment. It can go really, really bad for Trump from here. The financial aspects of this are huge. The potential liability is huge. It's much bigger than I think the Trump world understands. Now, maybe they are still convinced that somehow they're going to get out of it, or maybe they'll win on appeal or something like that. But realistically, the president is going to have some severe financial issues coming up. The business side of Trump world is about to be shook pretty hard. And based on the social media commentary, I don't think they get that yet. But we'll have to wait and see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But the potential liability from that ruling, it's definitely bigger than either they know or they want their base to know. I can't tell which. But so that's everything. That's the information you might have missed over the last week or so when it comes to Trump and how everything is progressing. And having the right information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good night.